Freddie Laker, the man who revolutionized air travel.
A true pioneer, a true risk-taker.
A great crusader.
But Laker's revolution was short-lived.
He felt very betrayed.
His enemies were lying in wait.
Laker is, as far as I'm concerned, is just artificial.
On 26 September 1977, a DC-10 wide-bodied aircraft soared into the sky from Gatwick Airport in London. Its destination, New York. This was no ordinary flight. It was the start of a revolution in air travel. SkyTrain, the world's first low-cost, no-frills transatlantic service, had taken off.
Looking at me.
The man who put SkyTrain in the air was Freddie Laker, a British entrepreneur who found fame and fortune through the cheap fares of his very own Laker Airways.
Number one.
Laker's competitors were charging roughly £200 each way to cross the Atlantic. At that time, more than 2 weeks' average pay. SkyTrain's offer at a quarter of the price was irresistible.
Freddie Laker basically came in and said, £59 one way, each way, that's all I want.
The idea of £59 was very attractive. It couldn't be anything other than attractive.
Freddie Laker's success was built on a simple idea, to create an airline that runs like a train.
He said people go to the railway station and buy a ticket and they jump on a train and they go where they want to. Why can't they come to the airport and buy a ticket and jump on a plane and go where they want to?
Laker's idea is familiar enough in the 21st century, but it seemed extraordinary at a time when transatlantic travel was the preserve of the well-off.
Laker decided he could cut away much of the cost by offering cheap sort of turn up on the day and buy your ticket service, cut away the frills and still give a good ride and a good aircraft.
SkyTrain was absolutely revolutionary because it said to people, hey, you don't have to book 3 months in advance to get an overpriced flight to America. You can just go and queue up, fly across the Atlantic, which was staggering.
It was effervescent. It had the promise of sparkle.
The day SkyTrain took off was a sensation. Freddie Laker had waited a long time for this first flight.
Oh dear, it was amazing. Because the hype had gone on for a few days in advance and we were trying to get everything organised and make sure everything went well.
There was great excitement down at Gatwick. There were a number of invited celebrities and aviation journalists who came along for the inaugural flight to New York.
To show just exactly what he meant by turn up on the day and buy your ticket, he said that everyone would have to turn up and queue, and he pointed to various aviation hacks, including myself, and said, that goes for you lot too.
He was out to make a profit and he wasn't going to have any freeloaders on his aircraft. Well, that was typical Freddie.
SkyTrain fares were the deal of the decade. They pulled in customers who until then couldn't afford to fly to the States, and to business customers whose long-haul flights were hitting their profits.
It was a sort of very easy, no-nonsense way of travelling, and which is perfectly comfortable.
Flight GK10, the inaugural flight, took off and on time. On board were 261...
Where you just paid for your seat, and everything else you paid for on board. So if you wanted a meal, you had to buy it before you got on board, and it was put on board ready for you.
It was advertised as a no-frills airline. You can bring on what you like, and there were a few people who did bring a picnic.
You can't be amazed at the stuff that you'd see on board. Everything from sort of Harrods hampers to, a sandwich and asking for a cup of tea.
Freddie Laker wasn't just a brilliant entrepreneur, he was also a born showman.
Freddie was backwards and forwards. The passengers were standing in the aisles and he was having them up to the flight deck and showing them the whole aeroplane.
He sort of kind of worked the customers, but he in his own way.
It was fiesta and razzmatazz all the way. And of course the champagne began to flow, and if I said I couldn't remember too much about the flight, I assure you it was because I was rather weary by then.
Freddie Laker was 55 when his SkyTrain became a roaring success. But success came at a price.
Can you hold the glass near the hand? Yeah, that's the creditor's side.
His whole life was a high-wire act.
SkyTrain was the biggest gamble of his life.
The concept was completely untried.
Freddie Laker's challenge wasn't just to open a new market. He also had to battle the air travel establishment.
He was up against already established airlines. They ruled the roost. They were the big boys. A modern analogy, it might be like a corner shop trying to take on the supermarkets.
The battle was also newsworthy, the David against the Goliath of the regulatory system.
Freddie Laker defied the establishment. It fought back with every trick in the book. Even his political idol and friend, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, sided with his enemies in the end.